David Settle back with you as we continue wrapping up today's show with a special guest in studio. Last week talked with one of our local legislators and wanted to get another perspective as we get ready for the 2019 general session of the Wyoming State Legislature, and Senator Glenn Moniz is in studio with me. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, David?
I'm doing well, all things considered, and I appreciate your time this morning. I know you guys are busy this time of year. I'm sure that I joked with Senator Rothfuss last week. Do you guys have a countdown to the general session like we count down to Christmas and New Year's?
Yeah, somewhat, actually. We do.
How busy are you guys this time of year with all the different committee meetings and seeing who's going to introduce what legislation?
Actually, it's extremely busy, but different people have different responsibilities assigned to different committees. Appropriations met this last week for a week, and they were extremely busy, and obviously everybody's interested in what they have to say, because a lot of what they deal with we'll be dealing with on the floor. So that was busy. I actually spent a great deal of time monitoring what they had to do there, as well as I had 3 days of select water in Cheyenne last week as well. Plus meeting with different constituents locally and discussing issues. So we've been busy.
Yeah, we'll get into some of those issues. First, you serve on a couple different committees. You serve on the Agriculture Committee, and then you also serve on, travel, recreation, wildlife, and cultural resources. Let's talk about agriculture. What are some big things that you guys are talking about in the Agriculture Committee, and that you're also maybe hearing from constituents here as you get into this 2019 session?
Well, actually, we had a very busy interim in ag. None of the bills that we've discussed or the issues we discussed have been filed yet, but some of the issues we discussed we can visit about. One of the first ones is the state-federal school trust land exchange. What we're wanting to do there is actually a resolution to encourage our congressional delegation to try to exchange landlocked school trust lands for other federal lands that aren't landlocked.
Okay.
Another one is legislative review of federal land transfers. A lot of times we hear about them after the fact, and we kind of like to have a little input prior to that, so that deals with that. A really big issue that we haven't settled on yet is water banking. And water banking comes from actually a drought situation we're facing on the Colorado River between the upper and lower sections, and the chance for some curtailment in Wyoming. It's never happened, but we need to be preparing for that. So in looking at how we bank water, it's a little more complex than we thought it might be.
Now you're talking storage here?
Well, that's my interpretation of banking is storage.
Okay.
But our state engineer mentioned the potential of actually banking water in Lake Powell, is where. When we heard that, we said, why don't we just bank it in Wyoming rather than Lake Powell?
Right.
Well, that's easier said than done. Number one, we have to have the storage capacity to do that. So we're working on Fontenelle and rickracking that so we can store more water there. So that's one potential. But that's a difficult issue that we haven't settled on how we might deal with that.
Well,
so that's another issue.
Well, and that brings up a great question, because the 7 states, which actually included Wyoming, met in Vegas last week, and they're trying to figure out a way to help out with the drought-stricken area in the southwestern U.S. So are they looking into Wyoming to possibly take water out of here?
Well, we have a certain obligation to the downriver states for water. So we have to meet that requirement regardless. But the concern is when we're unable to meet that requirement, then we have to look at some curtailment issues or some water conservation issues. What would be a better way of doing it? So we thought, well, why don't we bank this? In my mind, banking means storage.
Right.
So then we got to looking at it, because one of the governor's water policies is 10 and 10 reservoirs and dams in 10 years. I don't know that we're going to meet that, but that was one of his goals, and so we thought this might work. So to my knowledge, that's the only potential we have right now, but it's still a work in progress there. I don't see us happening that way.
Right, but that obviously would impact farmers and ranchers across the state, because you're talking about taking water out of state, and there have been lean years and drought years. I mean, heck, just look at the wildfire situation we've had around here in Albany County and to the west in Carbon County and a little bit down in northern Colorado that's impacted us the last several summers.
Well, definitely. So water's a big issue in the state of Wyoming, as it is everywhere else, and so we're looking at that. But it's, like I said, it's a work in progress there. And another one we dealt with last year was awful fence standards, county preemption, and what happened, there were some areas in the state that decided they were going to put more restrictive fence standards on property owners.
Okay.
And we took offense to that, or at least I did, and a number of our people on the committee did, because we didn't want to mess with the fencing standards that we have in the state of Wyoming at the present time.
Okay.
As we know, in the state of Wyoming, it's a fence-out state as far as cattle go. So, and we didn't want to affect that at all. So we visited about that, and we will probably bring a bill this year again, dealing with that, trying to keep the statute as it exists.
Okay.
Just leave it alone. But that's one we dealt with. We talked about a barley marketing commission. There's not a barley marketing commission in the state of Wyoming. So we visited about that, and if there was enough interest with the growers of barley in the state of Wyoming that have enough interest to tax themselves and form that commission. So we're not sure that's going to come to fruition.
Still kind of out there.
It is out
Okay.
there.
All right.
Another interesting one that some our constituents, our ag industry constituents, brought to us was ag product civil liability issue.
Okay.
And so here's a scenario that happened to an individual. He sold some hay. He advertised it as nasty hay, but not very good hay. So people bought it, like you are, you know, a willing buyer and a willing seller. You knew what you were getting. Apparently there was some rare seed in this hay, and this individual lost some cattle, and so he sued. And so we're trying to protect the industry there, and that one is going to be a extremely touchy issue. We'll see where that goes, but that was an issue we dealt with there.
Okay.
And then, you brought up forest fires. I mean, we knew what it was like in Wyoming this last year. It could be worse. So we got a bill to dump some money into the fire suppression account. We're talking $1 million a year up to $20 million max.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes, but we know what's coming, so we're trying to build that up. And kind of the last one we dealt with was the ban recording repeal of certified mail. And actually all that bill does is, on a second notice, eliminate the fact that they have to get certified mail. We can just do regular mail.
Okay, I gotcha.
So that's kind of where we are in the ag field.
What about travel, recreation, wildlife, and cultural resources? We're visiting with Senator Glenn Moniz here on a Wednesday edition of Let Me Live on KOWB. Where are you at with travel, wildlife, and recreation here?
Well, there's one issue that I found extremely interesting and wasn't aware of was hunting technology and the regulation. The technology is increased immensely that I wasn't actually aware of. Where now there's the use of trail cameras, drones. And I wasn't even aware they have smart rifles, a smart ammunition where you can hone in at large distances and shoot. So the element of fair chase has been eliminated. So what that bill does is allows the Game and Fish Commission to establish rules regulating hunter technology.
Well, and I can kind of understand that. I mean, if you're out in the field and you're using that smart technology, you might be shooting across a boundary that you're not allowed to shoot in, especially when you're talking about some of the smart technology they have, or you know, with a drone or trail cameras, kind of follow patterns and where they should be, and maybe violate some standards and statutes that are in regulations that are out there.
Now, we're concerned about that. If you don't recall, but we dealt with an issue a couple of years ago that we actually brought a bill, but we didn't have much success with it, was there's entities out there selling information on wildlife. In other words, they'll go out, locate the wildlife, and then sell you the information and basically guarantee. We didn't have much success with that because the concern there was, let's say, what if you and I met down at a restaurant and said, hey, I seen a bull elk up in such and such a draw. Right. That could be interpreted as so it was a touchy issue which we weren't too successful with, but it still is an issue.
All right. Anything else that's popping up?
Yeah, we dealt with non-motorized recreational trail account. In other words, account to kind of help assist with some of the maintenance of trails, non-motorized trails throughout the state. We had a bill, it's the second or third time around, I'm not sure why we're doing it again, but we are. It's called Regulation of Bingo and Pull Tab Games. We sat on that one for a while. Actually, we're still sitting on it because we were waiting to see what appropriations was doing, because appropriations had this large gaming commission bill that we thought if that passed, then we wouldn't need this bill here. Well, I listened to the testimony on that bill. It lasted forever. We'll see how that one goes. I've got some questions about it as well. There's a lot of questions about what kind of a problem we're really trying to solve with that issue. So okay. I don't know where that'll end up. Another one we did bring, I'm not sure why we brought this in either, but was the Wyoming Field Production Incentive for travel. You know, we had a bill, we had a account in the state they call FIFI, Film Incentive Fund,
right,
to kind of incentivize producers to come to the state of Wyoming.
People film their movies here, right? Okay.
Which, you know, what's the one that was born up in was filmed in New Mexico? I can't think. Anyway, it's in Wyoming, but it's filmed in you know, in Buffalo. I forget what the name of the I forget what it is now, but it was very popular.
Yeah. It's
filmed in New Mexico. I know most people know that or not. My argument was most people watching it don't know that it was filmed in New Mexico. It's all about Wyoming. But anyway, we're bringing that one back. I don't see that one having a lot of success either.
Okay.
But it might.
All right.
So those are some of the issues in travel.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are the committees that you serve on. I want to talk more kind of broad scope, but we'll take a quick time out because we're going to end the show. We're getting close to it here at 9:52. Brief time out. We'll come back with more with Senator Glenn Moniz, kind of to take some time out as we approach the legislative session, general session for 2019, coming up about 3 weeks away. It's Laramie Live on KOWB, back on this Wednesday morning, and again speaking with Senator Glenn Moniz as we approach the upcoming general session for 2019. I appreciate your time again this morning, Glenn. Let's talk about broad things. What are some of the big issues that constituents are talking with you about that you feel that this state is facing right now here as we get ready for this general session?
You know, one issue that I'm getting a lot of talk from my constituents, but I've been talking to lobbyists and other people in the telecommunications industry, all of these robocalls that everybody's getting. I mean, I'm getting phone calls from my own phone number, and everybody else is. Everybody's getting to the point they won't answer the phone because of these robocalls, and so it's frustrating. I'm sure it is for everybody, and everybody's, I'm sure, hurting. So I've talked with people in the telecommunications industry and see what we can do about. We've got to find some way to put an end to this. But you're in the media industry. You probably know more about it than I do. So.
I don't know about that, Glenn. I'm probably in the same boat as a lot of the constituents around here where I get frustrated. I probably screen my calls more often than not because of that fact. I don't want to be caught by some robocall and then you get connected and you never know sometimes where these people are calling and what type of scam they might be running. There's a lot of issues with that.
Exactly. I agree. I mean, you heard in the news the other day about some of these state governments getting hacked and demanding money through Bitcoin to pay ransom on these issues. So you never know. It's the technology and data privacy and privacy is a big issue with me, and I think we need to be more concerned than we are about it.
All right, so that's going to be a big one. Obviously, where we're at with the budget, where do you think this state is at? What kind of shape are we in right now, Glenn?
Well, we're not there yet. It's better than it was.
Okay.
But we've got a ways to go. So obviously we're looking at a variety of ways to deal with it. The elephant in the room is education, how to fund education and building new buildings and that. So they're looking at ways to do that. For me, actually I'd like to see us reform the entire budget process. The state of Wyoming budget is one of the most complex budgets in the country. It's hard for people who've been there a long time to follow all those revenue streams and where they flow, where they come from. So we need to simplify that if we can, and I think they're on the right track headed in that direction.
Do you anticipate a lot of cuts this time around?
I do not.
Okay.
Excuse me. I do not. I think there will be there'll be ways to increase efficiencies, which I'm going to support.
Okay.
You know, they have this whole efficiency commission that came out. I know leadership has directed appropriations to look at when they review the department budgets to look at the span of control, the supervisor's span of control. I think the recommendation is 1 to 6, 1 to 7, something like that. Where right now in a lot of departments that's 1 to 1. So they're going to 1 to 2, and then there's some that might be 1 to 10 or 12. So they're going to do a hard look at that. That's just one of them, a number of efficiency issues they'll be looking at. But I think there's room there.
Okay.
Obviously, Endow's a big one. We need to look at, we're talking about a grassroots large investment in this state through Endow, and so we'd ought to take a hard look at that and do what we can that works, and maybe not some others.
Where do you feel that this state, okay, we know the mineral industry is huge here. Tourism's big, agriculture's big. Those are really the three biggest industries in this state. Where do you feel, as someone who's served as in the House and now in the Senate over in the state legislature, where do you feel we can go in terms of trying to diversify this economy, Glenn? Tough question to answer, I know.
It's a tough question. We need to look at, again, of course, technology. I think we can look at doing some things. I know I've talked to some people in the oil industry, so we can do anything we want, we just can't afford to do it and make a profit. So we need to look, you've got that integrated test center up in Campbell County, where we've drawn a lot of people into that community interested in improving on technology there. So we look at that. Wind is going to be big for Albany County. Wind, in fact, it's going to be probably big for this state. We've got that 1,000 turbine thing in Carbon County, and we're going to see some benefit from wind in Albany County. So I can't say that I'm a large fan of wind, but it's a fact of life.
Well, and so that brings up a quick question. Do you see more expansion, maybe wind turbines here in this county, to maybe take more advantage of that?
I do.
Okay.
The elephant in the room there again is the uncertainty about taxing wind.
Yeah.
We know there's a certain legislator in the state of Wyoming that's pushing to increase the tax on wind. That would hurt us, I think, in Albany County and definitely Carbon County, because I think for them to make that large investment in the infrastructure, they need some certainty in the taxing system. So, well, I think we'll see it coming. It won't be a committee bill, but it'll sure enough be an individual.
Up against it here real quick, but I wanted to give you a last kind of statement to folks in the listening audience. As you approach this 2019 session, anything else that's kind of big that's kind of popping up on your mind and on your radar here real quick?
All of the taxing bills that came out of revenue. Revenue Committee was mandated to produce some revenue bills, and I think we've heard about all of them. I did hear you visit with the tourism, Albany County Tourism, Fred, the other day, and he was supporting that taxing the tourism bill. I haven't had a chance to visit with Fred about the issues, but I will. You've heard about the one where they're going to bring back the tax on groceries and then reduce the sales tax 0.5%. That's a push there. It makes no sense to me, and may have more effect on the people that can't afford it the most. So I don't see me supporting too many tax bills.
All right.
But it's going to be an issue for sure.
Thank you so much for your time. We're up against the clock here, but thanks so much. Have fun in the legislature as much as you can.
Thanks for having me. You bet. Thank you. Appreciate it.